Hello and welcome to episode 36 of the Mr. Douglas Sports Show. I'm your host as always, Corey Douglas, and I'm going to get this show kicked right off. Of course, we're talking Super Bowl 55. Tampa Bay comes away with a 31-9 win against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I got to start this off by just admitting I was way off on the way I thought this game would play out. So coming into the game, I overestimated Andy Reid's ability to be able to come up with a game plan to offset his left tackle and starting right tackle being out. And I underestimated Tampa Bay's defense and what they would be able to do to this Kansas City offense. So I want to keep it on Tampa Bay just for a second. Of course, Tom Brady wins his 7th NFL Super Bowl, his 5th Super Bowl MVP. And as far as I'm concerned, the debate for who's the best quarterback of all time, it's completely over. When you look at what Tom Brady did going to a new situation, they went into the bye week 7-5, lost 3 straight games, and then they don't lose again after the bye week. And to me, that just speaks to the leadership that Tom Brady has, and just the guys rallying around Tom Brady as their quarterback. I think the moment Tom Brady touched down in Tampa Bay, those players on the Bucs squad, they knew they had a legit chance to end up winning a Super Bowl. And despite them losing 3 straight in the middle of the season, they didn't get flustered. And I think a lot of that probably had to do with the way Tom Brady was carrying himself through the struggles. And then they got into the bye week, they figured some things out, and they went on a run. And the other piece of Tom Brady's leadership that came out, after the game is that Tom Brady was sending a text message every night to all of his teammates saying, "We will win this game." When you have a quarterback, and it was around 11 o'clock, when you have a quarterback that is that committed and playing at the age of 43, you can't help but rally around that. And I actually heard a great question this week, and the question was, how many quarterbacks in the league can you just rally around like that? The name that was brought up in the conversation was Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers' leadership skills are not comparable to Tom Brady's. And I think the way the team rallied around after being 7-5, I think that plays a big part into it. But the other side of Tom Brady's leadership came out during the game. And what I'm talking about is the way they went, or he went after personally. He went after Tyrann Mathieu and got up in his face. He said some stuff that he later apologized for, but I think that was intentional. He went to their defensive leader, the guy that he has respect for him, but he let his teammates know, yo, we're here to win this game. We don't care who's in our way. And I think the team rallied behind him in that situation and just even played even harder. But I want to go to the Tampa Bay defense because they would have not been Super Bowl champions if they did not play the way they played. They forced 2 more takeaways in the Super Bowl. They had 41 points off of takeaways coming into the game, and that trend continued. You talk about JPP, you talk about Shaq Barrett, you talk about Ndamukong Suh, you talk about Vita Vea, Levante David, you talk about Antoine Winfield Jr., Devin White. All of those key pieces to that defense played a huge role in this game. And Todd Bowles, you have to give him credit for the game plan that he came up with after the Week 12 shellacking that they received from Kansas City. What he did in this game is play 2 safety over the top the entire time and forced KC to make a decision on whether they wanted to take advantage of the running holes because they only had 7 in the box, or if you want to keep playing into the hands of this Tampa Bay defense in the way they were playing and by throwing the ball. And Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, they fed right into it. They kept throwing, dropping back. They didn't really run the ball effectively. And then once they really tried to run the ball, it was too late because they were down multiple possessions. And by playing into Tampa Bay's defensive scheme's hands, I think I saw for the first time Patrick Mahomes really flustered. Of course, part of that was the offensive line and him not really believing in that. But I think a joke was made, when Sam Darnold was on the sideline against the Patriots a couple years ago, saying that he was seeing ghosts. But what he meant by that was that he was seeing the rush even if the rush wasn't there. And I think you saw a lot of that from Patrick Mahomes on Sunday. You saw him escaping the pocket when maybe he had a couple more seconds in the pocket to maybe sit there and make a throw. But you saw him, he was running around the entire game, and you could just tell he didn't believe in the offensive line and what was going on. And I think this stat, that next gen stat released after the game, and this is just unbelievable. So Patrick Mahomes traveled 497 yards before throwing a ball or being sacked. That is the most yards traveled by a quarterback since they started keeping track of that in 2016. And it was almost unbelievable, some of the throws that Patrick Mahomes was getting off. I mean, he was running backwards 15 yards, spinning around, just throwing fadeaway passes. And at one point, he was like horizontal with the ground, and he flings the ball into the end zone. It goes off Tyreek Hill's head, and it was just an off night for the KC offense. But you have to give a lot of credit to the Tampa Bay defense for forcing them into that situation, and then you also have to, give some blame to Patrick Mahomes for escaping the pocket a little bit early. But Andy Reid, I don't know what that was. I mean, I just don't know how you go through a Super Bowl with not making any game plan or any adjustments to the game plan. And they really reminded me of the 2017 year for the Dallas Cowboys, when Dak Prescott was having a lineup behind an offensive line that involved Chaz Green. He gets sacked 7 times, and it really spooked Dak Prescott for the next 16 games of his career. So, I mean, once you get spooked it's like that, it's really hard to bounce back, especially in an individual game on that level. So the next place I want to go with this is what was going on with Kansas City. So obviously we know Britt Reed, who is Andy Reid's son, was involved in a major car accident that Thursday before the game. And as the result of the accident, there's a couple of a 5-year-old and another child that are in very critical condition due to the accident. Britt Reed later came out and said that he had a few drinks in his system. So obviously, not to, of course, make excuses or anything like that, but first I just want to send my prayers to that family, all families involved in that car accident, first off. But then second off, just related to the football side of it, I want to talk about how much did that impact the game planning and just kind of their focus late in the week. Because if you're on a normal Super Bowl week, you're traveling to the game a week beforehand. You're getting in there. You're not being put in that situation to where, first of all, you should never drink and drive. So let's just get that out the way. So I'm not saying that, but if you're in the Super Bowl town already, you're not out there putting yourself in that position to possibly drink and drive and distract your team. So I think that not traveling until the day before, which KC did, they arrived in Tampa Bay on Saturday, the day before the game. So I just wonder how much that impacted Kansas City. And I was listening to Chris Collinsworth talk on his podcast, and what he was saying is that he called the game last year when they played San Francisco and won, and he was talking about how the Kansas City Chiefs were bouncing around on the field, and they were just full of that joy, and they had that Super Bowl energy. And he said this year it was not the same. That he didn't see the energy that you would expect from a team playing in a Super Bowl. So I don't know how much the accident and having to deal with that situation impacted it, but also not being able to, to kind of soak in the Super Bowl atmosphere throughout the week and really prepare for that. Because Tampa Bay didn't have to travel because they were playing in their own backyard. So they were kind of more into the Super Bowl impact or Super Bowl kind of environment. So that obviously I think played a part into it. But yeah, I mean, that's at the end of the day, it was just a really great ass kicking for Tampa Bay that they handed to KC. And now I think Tampa Bay is right there in the Super Bowl mix going forward for the next 2-3 years or however long Brady stays there. Because now Brady's talking about playing past the age of 45, and at the rate he's going, he could maybe add, maybe 2 or 3 more Super Bowls potentially. But this is something on Brady's part that we're never going to see again from any quarterback on this level. And on the flip side of that, KC, there was a lot of, running back talk, dynasty talk, or we want to win 6-7. I think this really sets them back a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see how they respond, how Patrick Mahomes responds. Patrick Mahomes did have surgery on Wednesday to repair his turf toe. So he's going to go through an offseason of not being able to do much leading into the season, the 2021 season. And, of course, we don't even know what the offseason for the NFL is going to look like for this year. But overall, I think it was a great Super Bowl. Maybe not from the entertainment aspect, but just the storylines that are coming out of it. But yeah, man, that's all I have for today's episode. I'm going to keep it short. I will be back next week to get into a multitude of topics. But until next time, salute.